Alex had always been fascinated by the stars. While most humans looked up at them and saw only distant lights, he saw stories, mysteries, and possibilities. His latest mission had taken him to a planet in the Zorath system, a place teeming with strange flora that glowed faintly at night and ruins that whispered of civilizations long gone. He navigated through the dense forests, careful not to disturb the alien plant life, each step bringing him closer to the unknown. As he moved deeper into the jungle, a faint sound reached his ears. Though it wasn't a sound in the traditional sense, it was more like a vibration, a trembling in the air that made his skin tingle. Curious, he followed it, brushing aside vines and strange, luminous flowers, until he reached a clearing bathed in soft, pale light. There, in the middle of the clearing, he saw her. A small alien girl was trapped within a web of shimmering energy. She had delicate features, large eyes that reflected the faint light around her, and skin that seemed almost translucent. Her hands pressed against the invisible walls, but no matter how hard she pushed or pulled, she could not escape. She looked frightened, but not weak. There was intelligence and determination in her gaze that told Alex she was not an ordinary being. "Hey," he called softly, careful not to startle her. She turned toward him, her eyes wide with alarm. She didn't speak, didn't make any sound at all, and Alex realized that this wasn't just fear. It was something else, something deeper. He approached cautiously, examining the energy field. His sensors showed that it was suppressing not only her movement but also her vocal cords. She couldn't speak. That explained why there had been no voice, no call for help. "I can help you," he said, keeping his voice gentle. She tilted her head slightly, curiosity mixed with fear, as if she understood him but couldn't respond. Alex pulled out his tablet and began scanning the field, tracing its energy patterns. He noticed ancient symbols etched into nearby rocks, symbols that matched descriptions in his reference files about voice-sharing rituals. They were risky and rarely performed by humans because they temporarily stole the practitioner's voice, leaving them mute and vulnerable, but in this case it seemed like the only option. He looked at the girl. "If I do this, I'll lose my voice for a while. You'll be able to speak, but I won't. It's dangerous, but it's the only way." She tilted her head again, her large eyes conveying a mix of understanding and hope. She didn't speak, of course, but her gaze was enough. Alex took a deep breath and activated the ritual device he had found in the ruins nearby. It was a small, orb-shaped object, covered in the same symbols as the ones etched in the rocks. He placed it between himself and the girl. The air hummed and shimmered as he followed the instructions engraved on the orb, chanting the words silently as the device glowed. A strange warmth spread through his throat, and he felt the essence of his voice leaving him, traveling through the device and flowing into the girl. She gasped as the energy touched her, and suddenly her lips moved as if she had remembered how to speak for the first time. "Thank you." Her words were soft at first, trembling, then growing stronger with each syllable. It was his voice, clear and strong, coming from her small frame. Alex's chest tightened. He could feel the absence of his own voice like a hollow space inside him, but hearing her speak, hearing life return to her, made it worth it. Tears welled up in her eyes. She tried to speak again, and this time the words came faster, flowing with relief and wonder. "I can speak. Thank you." Alex smiled, though it felt strange to do so silently. He tried to speak, but only silence came out. He scribbled on his tablet, "You're welcome." She read it quickly and nodded, a smile spreading across her delicate features. They were interrupted by a distant sound, a rumble that shook the clearing. Alex scanned the area. The planet's environment was not entirely stable. Landslides, sudden storms, and aggressive wildlife were all hazards, but this sound was different. It wasn't natural. He could feel it in his chest, a warning. He turned back to the girl. "We need to move," he wrote quickly. She nodded, now able to communicate verbally, and together they carefully made their way out of the clearing. As they walked, she told him her name, Lyra. Her voice, though his, carried a unique melody, a rhythm and tone that belonged only to her. She was cautious, asking questions about him, about the planet, and about why he had risked so much for her. Alex could only respond through gestures and writing, explaining that he believed in helping those in need regardless of species. Lyra listened, fascinated by his determination and the calm strength he radiated, even in the midst of danger. As they journeyed deeper into the alien jungle, Lyra began to regain her confidence. She discovered that her voice was not just for speaking, it allowed her to manipulate small amounts of energy, something her people had once used for navigation and communication. Her eyes lit up as she realized that Alex had not only freed her voice but restored a part of her power that had been trapped for years. Night fell, and the forest came alive with glowing insects and the soft calls of alien creatures. They found shelter in a natural cave, its walls covered in luminescent moss. Lyra explored the cave with wonder, her voice echoing softly as she hummed, testing the limits of her restored ability. Alex watched her, a mixture of pride and silent joy filling him. He knew the next few days would be challenging. Without his voice, communication would be slow, and danger could come from anywhere. But he also knew that Lyra's regained speech and abilities would make her stronger, and together they could face whatever threats the planet held. That night, as they rested, Lyra spoke again, this time more confidently. "I will remember what you did for me." Alex nodded silently, feeling a warmth that went beyond words. He had sacrificed something precious, yet it had brought them closer in a way that transcended language. The next morning, they continued their journey toward the ruins where Lyra's people had once lived. Along the way, they encountered obstacles: a collapsed bridge over a glowing chasm, a group of territorial alien creatures, and a series of confusing energy traps left by the ancient civilization. Each time, Alex guided her silently, using gestures, written instructions, and his quick thinking to keep them safe. Lyra began to learn from him, mimicking his strategies and eventually anticipating his moves. Despite the danger, there was a sense of excitement, a bond forming between the human and the alien girl that was more than just survival. It was mutual: respect, trust, and something that neither fully understood yet, a deep connection that only extreme circumstances could forge. As they approached the edge of the ancient ruins, Alex paused. The ruins were partially overgrown but clearly massive, with towering stone pillars etched with symbols that glowed faintly. Lyra's eyes widened. "This, my home. Before," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. Though the words were still his, Alex gestured for caution. They entered carefully, exploring the corridors filled with faded murals and broken machinery. Lyra's voice allowed them to communicate with hidden devices, activating panels and deciphering symbols. Slowly, they pieced together a map that could lead them to the location where her people had stored critical knowledge about their civilization. Hours passed and the sun dipped below the horizon. They set up a small camp within the ruins, the glowing symbols providing light. Lyra finally sat down, exhausted but exhilarated. She turned to Alex, her eyes filled with gratitude and curiosity. "Why me?" she asked quietly. "Why help me?" Alex shrugged, gesturing at the ruins around them, at the planet full of mysteries and dangers, at the fact that no one else could have helped her. He wrote quickly on his tablet, "Because someone had to. Because it's right." Lyra nodded slowly, as if understanding the depth of what he had done. As they prepared to sleep, Lyra hummed softly, her voice filling the ruins with a haunting, beautiful melody. Alex lay back, feeling the strange emptiness of silence, but also the quiet satisfaction of having made a difference. He had given her his voice, and in return she had given him a sense of purpose deeper than any he had ever known. Outside, the alien jungle was alive with movement. Creatures watched them from the shadows, some curious, some dangerous. But for the first time in years, Lyra felt hope. She could speak, she could act, and she had a human who had risked everything to give her that chance. Alex, mute but vigilant, stayed awake for a while, listening to her soft breaths and the distant sounds of the jungle. He knew the next part of their journey would be harder. That danger was never far away on a planet like this. But as he looked at Lyra, he realized that humans were not just survivors. They were protectors, explorers, and sometimes even saviors. And with that thought, he closed his eyes, letting the quiet settle around them, ready for whatever the galaxy would throw at them next. The first light of dawn filtered through the ruins, casting long shadows across the cracked stone floors. Alex stirred, stretching silently, his voice still gone but his mind sharp and alert. Lyra was already awake, her small form moving gracefully among the ruins. Her eyes sparkled with determination, no longer frightened, no longer silent. She touched the glowing symbols etched into the walls, whispering words that carried the melody of Alex's voice. "Alex," she said softly, "we must go. The data, we need to save it." He nodded, writing quickly on his tablet. "Lead the way." Together, they moved deeper into the ruins. The corridors twisted and turned, filled with ancient machinery and puzzles designed to protect the secrets within. Lyra's voice allowed her to activate certain panels and decipher symbols, her words bringing life to the long-forgotten technology. Alex followed closely, guiding her, warning her of traps and finding ways to bypass obstacles that might have otherwise trapped them forever. Hours passed as they navigated the labyrinth. The ruins were not abandoned. Distant echoes of movement suggested they were being watched. Alex kept his eyes open, scanning for threats, noting subtle shifts in the environment. He gestured to Lyra to be cautious, and she adjusted her pace, her own senses heightened. Finally, they reached a chamber at the heart of the ruins. The walls glowed with intricate patterns, and in the center sat a pedestal holding a crystalline device. Alex recognized it immediately. It was the storage unit containing the knowledge of Lyra's people, information about their technology, history, and the location of other survivors. Lyra stepped forward, her small hands trembling as she reached for the device. This is it," she whispered. Alex nodded, holding his hand up to stop her. He gestured for her to wait, scanning the room for traps. A low hum began to fill the chamber. Alex crouched, examining the floor and walls, realizing too late that a pressure plate had been triggered. The room shuddered and energy beams shot from the walls. Alex reacted instinctively, pulling Lyra behind a stone pillar. His voice rang out clearly, issuing a warning to him as he ducked. "Move, now." They dodged the energy beams, sliding and rolling across the chamber. Alex's quick thinking and Lyra's precise voice commands allowed them to reach the pedestal safely. Lyra lifted the device and the beams stopped instantly. She let out a shaky laugh, relief flooding her features. "We did it," she said. Alex gave a silent thumbs up, feeling a rare sense of triumph, but their victory was short-lived. From the shadows of the chamber, a group of hostile aliens emerged. They were tall, muscular, and clearly part of the faction that had been hunting Lyra. Their eyes glowed faintly, and their weapons hummed with deadly energy. Alex realized they had been followed, and now the real danger had arrived. He gestured for Lyra to stay behind him. She nodded, holding the crystalline device tightly. The aliens advanced, their weapons aimed with deadly precision. Alex's mind raced. Without his voice, he relied on gestures, pointing, signaling, and using the environment to his advantage. He noticed the ceiling above the intruders had loose panels. With a quick calculation, he threw a stone, triggering the panels to collapse. The aliens ducked, momentarily distracted. Lyra saw the opening. "Now!" she shouted. Using her voice, she manipulated a small energy pulse, sending a shockwave toward the intruders. They staggered, giving Alex the chance to strike. Using a combination of martial skill and improvised weapons, he disarmed one of the aliens and knocked another unconscious. Despite their small size, Alex and Lyra moved with perfect coordination. Her voice guided him, his silent signals guided her. Together they turned the tide, showing that intelligence, courage, and trust could overcome brute strength. When the last alien was incapacitated, Alex allowed himself a moment to breathe. Lyra looked at him, admiration and gratitude shining in her eyes. You saved me," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. Alex nodded silently, writing on his tablet. "We saved each other." She smiled, understanding the meaning without needing more words. They didn't have time to celebrate. Lyra studied the crystalline device, quickly deciphering its contents. Maps of star systems, coordinates to hidden settlements, and knowledge of advanced technology filled the holographic projections. "We must return this to my people," she said. They will survive because of this." Alex gestured, asking how they would carry it safely. She pointed to a hidden compartment in the ruins that would protect it during transport. They moved carefully, avoiding the patrols and traps that still littered the surrounding area. Each step was tense, but their growing trust in each other made them stronger. As night fell, they reached a cliff overlooking the alien jungle. Lyra paused, gazing at the glowing landscape below. "This world, so alive," she whispered. Alex nodded, silent, feeling a connection not just to Lyra but to the planet itself. It was dangerous, yes, but also full of beauty, mystery, and life waiting to be protected. They descended carefully, reaching a clearing where Lyra's people had left signs of habitation long ago. Though deserted now, the place felt alive with memories. Lyra's voice brought energy to the devices left behind, activating shields and communication arrays. Soon the remnants of her people's technology were operational again. Lyra turned to Alex, her eyes filled with hope. "We can reach them now," she said. "We can save them." Alex nodded, feeling the first glimmer of relief. His voice was still gone, but his actions, his silent guidance had made all the difference. He had given her the chance to speak, to act, to save her people, and in doing so, he had proved what humans were capable of. Over the next few days, they worked tirelessly, using the technology to send messages and coordinate with hidden settlements. Lyra's people began responding, their voices filled with confusion, fear, and eventually relief. Alex and Lyra became the bridge between past and future, human and alien, guiding the survivors to safety. During this time, Alex's bond with Lyra deepened. She began to rely not only on his guidance but also on his silent presence, understanding that bravery and wisdom were just as important as voice or technology. She learned human gestures, subtle signs that conveyed meaning without words, and Alex learned to read the nuances of her expressions and tones. One evening, after ensuring the last transmission had been sent, Lyra sat beside him. "Alex, you gave me voice," she said softly, her tone carrying the warmth and sincerity of her gratitude. He nodded, scribbling on his tablet. "You will always remember." She smiled, and this time she didn't speak in his voice but her own, melodic and distinct. "You gave me strength," she said, finally speaking in her natural voice. Alex felt a surge of pride and satisfaction. He had risked his voice, his safety, and yet seeing her strong, confident, and alive made every sacrifice worthwhile. The hostile faction, though still out there, had been outsmarted and delayed. Lyra's people now had the tools and knowledge to protect themselves and rebuild, and Alex, though still silent for now, had demonstrated humanity's courage, ingenuity, and compassion. Finally, they prepared to leave the planet. Lyra carried the crystalline device, now fully functional, and Alex led the way to the shuttle he had hidden in the jungle. As they boarded, Lyra looked back at the ruins, then at Alex, her eyes filled with gratitude and trust. "Thank you, human," she said. Alex smiled silently, his heart full. He had traded something vital to him, but in return he had given life, freedom, and hope to another species. That was worth more than words. As the shuttle lifted off, heading toward the stars, Lyra sat beside Alex, speaking freely now, telling him stories of her people, their hopes and dreams. Alex listened, silent but fully engaged, knowing that his actions had created a bond that transcended worlds, voices, and species. In the vastness of space, a human had given his voice to save an alien girl. She had used it not just to speak, but to inspire hope, protect her people, and honor the sacrifice he had made. And that, Alex realized, was the essence of humanity, the courage to act selflessly, the ingenuity to survive, and the heart to connect across the galaxy. Lyra turned to him once more, her voice clear and full of warmth. "I will never forget you, Alex. You showed me the power of one human." Alex, still silent, simply nodded. Words were not necessary. The bond they shared, forged in courage and sacrifice, was stronger than any language. And as the stars stretched endlessly before them, he knew that humanity had proven itself once again, not just in strength, but in heart. The shuttle moved through the cosmos, carrying the promise of survival, hope, and a friendship that would span light years. And somewhere deep inside, Alex smiled quietly, knowing that his voice, though temporarily gone, had spoken louder than anything he could have said.